So my name is Ray Cool. I'm president of PBSI. I want to welcome you to today's webinar, IT security. Specifically, we'll cover other topics, but we want to specifically address how do we prepare our staff to avoid the dangers of links, downloads, and malware. So today's topics, we'll go quickly. We're going to talk about the need for security, which is quite evident to most of us today. What are the 5 fundamental building blocks of cybersecurity? So this is really important. What are the 4 common, not necessarily the only, but common problems that we see impacting network performance, and how can we mitigate, reduce risk of, and deal with these issues? We're going to take a look at online monitoring, which is one of the main components of a security presence to make sure that once you've set up your security that somebody's paying attention on the outside. And I want to make a comment here for all PBSI clients who are listening to me. You are protected by PBSI's online monitoring. One exception to that with a client who's logged in and not yet protected, but we have you already set up and covering your back doing this online monitoring. So I want you to know that, because we had some folks who registered and said, we're not sure who's handling our security. We're doing that on your behalf. So, and then many of you are not PBSI clients. Today's information will be new, but hopefully for everyone this will be really educational. And among the most important things we're going to talk about is what do we need to teach our employees, and there's a handout that we'll pass out to everyone at the end of webinar so that you'll have access to this that you can use with your own employees. So again, I'm Ray Cool. Thank you for your attendance today. We're going to move on. So many of you know PBSI quite well. Some of you have been clients for decades, some for a much shorter period of time, but we have a trust relationship, and I want you to know that as president of PBSI, we don't take your relationships and your business for granted. Thank you for your participation. For many of you, this is your first exposure to PBSI. So snapshot, we have hundreds of clients, many in healthcare, many in other industries in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. We have a great staff. Among our staff of just about 40, 27 of our staff have been with us for 10 years or more. So we have a lot of very, very experienced people. And we're responsible for proactively monitoring and responsibly communicating any security issues with clients. So why do we need IT security? We have an obligation to protect our employees, our patients, our clients. We all understand that with the Anthem hack and the Target hack and so forth, that there are lots of bad people out there trying to gain information and using very hidden, difficult to spot methods to go about it. So we're going to dive into that today a bit and identify what can we do and how can we protect. So the internet is a dangerous place. We pretty much all see that. Today I'm going to give you some examples where we've seen, especially, I'll note the CryptoLocker and CryptoWall virus problem has been around for some time now. This is a ransomware product where it encrypts your hard drives and is very, very dangerous. We're seeing more and more of this, and education specifically, not just about CryptoLocker, but other similar ransomware products, very, very important for employees to understand. We can't see security any longer as inflicted by the government. We're forced to do this by HIPAA or other regulations. We have an obligation to make security a part of our culture. So you all attending today's webinar, speaking to the choir. You wouldn't be attending if you didn't already have this sense. So among the biggest issues, our own systems, our own knowledge, our own procedures, the training of our own employees, and we're all in operations where we're really busy, and who has time to pay attention to this, but we're really busy here will inevitably lead to violations. So it's time to make sure that we have our security cleaned up. Fortunately, we can help. So today's webinar is not about selling products or services to anyone, but about educating on the topic of how do we make sure that our security is set properly and employees are educated in the right areas. So real quickly, I'm just going to show you some samples. You could never put in front of employees all the samples of things that they might experience and hope to educate them through this. But here's an example on the left side of your screen of a very brief email that comes from somebody who, generally speaking, you would know the person. Their email address has been absconded, and there's a link or there's an attachment, and if you clicked on this particular email on the left, you would have then been infected by the crypto wall virus, and you're now informed that you have the right to pay a bunch of money to avoid having your files encrypted. So other examples, we see really well-disguised emails from FedEx, from UPS. You've just, your shipment's ready to review online, that kind of thing, from PayPal. Here's one from Citibank. So these are all just examples which are scary and difficult to discern in many cases. So this one, I'm going to go into detail a bit later, but you notice my name on the screen. This email didn't come to me, but this very morning, an email came to me, so I've changed some things about this, and the email's from another employee asking me to go to the email that the employee had received and click on the link so that we can take care of a security issue with Amex, which is our corporate credit card. So here's the starting part of that email that was received by our employee, and it says there's a security concern, please log on to American Express. So what you need to know is that this is a bad email. This is not from American Express. Generally speaking, most credible vendors, particularly financial institutions, will not send you an email and ask you to log in by clicking on a link. We'll go into this in more detail. Just be aware that they're very, very difficult to spot. And this is part of the problem, is that no matter how much we educate, here we have an employee at PBSI who sells and provides security services fooled by an email. Now, we didn't click on the email, he forwarded it to me, but we can't be too cautious. So we're going to talk about what we educate. So first, what are the 5 fundamental layers of IT security? One of the principles is we want to make our security multi-layered so that if one layer or one piece fails, that we're not completely exposed. So exterior, interior, desktop, education, monitoring. Those are the 5 components. Exterior, most folks today understand we need a firewall. If we're in a medical practice or a business, we need a firewall, but you can purchase a firewall really inexpensively. In fact, these devices, even the good ones, aren't expensive. They simply need to be programmed appropriately with and set up by somebody who understands security services. So for all of you who are already PBSI clients, we've supplied your firewall, we've set your firewall, we're responsible to keep it silent. So what does this keep your firewall silent mean? It means that the pings that are sent throughout the internet by hackers, they're not looking for you, generally speaking. They might be looking for Target, or they might be looking for Anthem, and they're not looking for you and they're not looking for me. But if we set our firewall such that the firewall does not report back, I'm a Windows 2011 server with blah, blah, blah. We also redirect and block typical hacker ports. So ports are theoretical spots on your firewall where Telnet always defaults to a certain port and so forth. So we redirect those. And so your firewall just needs to be set up by somebody who's paying attention to do some basic things to keep your firewall as difficult to hack as possible. Then your firewall needs to be actively managed with employee-specific permissions and remote access rules, so that, generally speaking, you want to have a remote access employee need more than simply their desktop password to get in. They need some other setup on the firewall to permit that. So measuring your firewall effectiveness, periodically evaluate the number of dropped packets. A dropped packet is something that's been blocked. So if we had no dropped packets on our firewall, it would mean that our firewall basically is not blocking anything. It's permitting everything to go through to the desktop PC where things might or might not be blocked. So setting up the exterior firewall, which includes programming the setup features, really important. Again, very inexpensive, easy to handle. You just need somebody with some expertise. Interior, what's commonly called advanced threat defense. So our wireless networks are a part of this. We must ensure our wireless networks are encrypted and that we control password access. More about that in a bit. One of the things that so we sell Sonic Wall firewalls, which are used to be an independent company, now owned by Dell, but whether it's Cisco or whatever brand, most of the effective firewalls today provide the ability to have antivirus intrusion prevention, malware prevention software running at the firewall level, so that we can set some organization-wide guidelines so that we can say, as an organization, nobody can get to a porn site or a phishing site, or so anyway, there are some settings that can be and should be done at the firewall level, which increases the effectiveness of the firewall. So this would mean that an email that might otherwise be dangerous is never allowed into the building because something about that is recognized by the software running on the firewall. So desktop, this is the most common and most understood part of security at the endpoint of where the end user sits, which could be a portable device or an iPhone, but it certainly includes all of our PCs or tablets or laptops. We need to have our PCs set with active antivirus, which is online updated on a real-time basis. That's also true, though, of all of our Windows, whether we have Windows 7, Windows 8, whatever we have, our applications that are made by Microsoft or Adobe or Google, and our browsers. No matter which browser we use, we need to have all of these apps set to auto-update. And the reason is security issues are frequently related to unupdated software patches. So the way it works is this. This is important to understand. Most of us, it's no problem. We understand our antivirus needs to be set to auto-update. We don't understand when our PC gives us a message, updates to Windows 7 available, do you want to install, do you want to reboot? And the answer is always, always, yes, 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 all of those things. So what happens here is that, let's say Adobe issues a patch to Adobe Reader, and it's a security patch, and they publish it, and as soon as they do, all of the hackers in the world are notified. So I didn't know that there was a security issue in Adobe Reader that, let me see, this is the way they describe it. That's interesting. Well, they test it out. Well, what do you know? We can actually exploit that. So now the clock is ticking. The security patch has been released. If your PC is set to auto-update, then within minutes of the release, your PC is already updated and you're protected. But for all the others out there that aren't paying attention to the automatic update of the applications on their PCs, they are now subject to the immediate onslaught of hacker pings trying to find devices where they have a previous version and can exploit, and frequently this is how malware is installed. Some of us know that Edward Snowden was a contractor for NSA, and he actually used this very thing. Part of his job was to install patches to PCs for their Windows and so forth, and he knew about how to get underneath, and he used that to gain information, and the rest is history. So very important. Okay, employee education. So this we're going to talk about in detail. Have a written policy, but I want to say documents don't communicate. They can communicate, but it's one thing for me, a manager, to say, yeah, we have a policy for that. Yeah, I know how to handle that. I know what our policy is. I know what we should do and shouldn't do. But go to the person at our front desk. Go to the person who's in the back, whose job has nothing to do with our security or administration, and ask them. And you're frequently going to get a different answer. So how can we make sure that our employees are communicated with? Almost always it needs to be some kind of personal communications. Can be done by email, but we can do webinars for companies specifically. You just can't depend on the fact that we told them that. And still, there's no guarantee. And I use PBSI's experience this morning with an employee who's well-trained, still not being aware enough to think, this might be a bad email. So the basics are no unapproved downloads and really be careful with links, and we're going to go into more detail about this. And then online monitoring, we're going to look at how this works today. So all of you who currently are PBSI clients, you're covered by PBSI's online monitoring service. We see the current activity at each of your PCs and each of your servers. That doesn't mean necessarily that we can prevent something from happening, but what we can do is know real-time online if something's awry. And I'll show you how that works. So those are the layers of security. So some common problems. Unfortunately, many of us have experienced viruses somewhere in our organization. We can protect, but we cannot prevent. So I want to make a comment here about employee education, and this comment is, no antivirus software on earth can prevent a virus being acquired from clicking on the wrong link or opening the wrong attachment. Can't be done. So your antivirus may not have failed, but your employee education may have. So this idea of no downloads and no links, you really need to go deeper, because we all get emails with links. PBSI sends emails to clients with links. And after today, you may think twice about opening that. But if you're talking about trusted sources and There's just certain things, and we'll cover these. How do I know when I should be concerned? Malware. Frequently we see slow PCs, and frequently they're due to undiagnosed malware or other processes. Some of them are really malicious, some of them not so malicious. They're capturing ad information so that people can send us advertisements that are targeted to our searches. But I would advise anyone, you have a PC that you think is just old and it's slow, check for unnecessary running tasks. If you're a PBSI client, you can email us and say, here's a PC, would you check this out? And we can see all the processes running on the PC online and clean up things that are in the startup file or wherever they came from. So we can see a lot of things about a PC, but we can't see the actual reality of slow response time. We could predict it from seeing some memory's busy, the hard drive's busy, that kind of thing. But let your vendor know if your PC is slow. Software patches, make sure that your patches are up to date for all your applications. And then speed issues on your network. Sometimes these can be very difficult because there's so many variables to be involved. It could be your internet, it could be your old switch on your network, but basically you want to make sure that if there's an intermittent speed issue that someone's on the job to investigate, and I'll show you how online monitoring helps with this. So these are just some common things that we can help address. So on your screen now you see a PowerPoint slide of what we call our online dashboard. So now I'm going to move away from PowerPoint and I'm going to do a short demonstration of what actually our technicians use to provide online monitoring for clients. So how about I just click this directly. So this is PBSI's online dashboard. Now right now it's showing just devices that are at PBSI, but as we scroll up and down the list here, all PBSI clients, the ones on the bottom have 0 problems currently going on, and there's some kind of issue, might be minor and unimportant, at some of these other clients. Very quickly, I'm not going to make any HIPAA violations here, but if I wanted to, which this is the way our staff uses this, it's all clients. So the most pressing problem would be on the top from a certain client and then down in sequence, and you'll see the various things we can learn. But right now I'm going to focus just on PBSI so that you know, though, typical dashboard view from one of our technicians, they're seeing all of your servers, they're seeing all of your PCs. Now when I say all PBSI clients who are listening are covered, just know that some of you don't cover your server, some of you don't cover your PCs, but for all of you we have at least a part of your configuration. For most of you, we have both your servers and your PCs covered. So now what we're seeing is all the servers at PBSI. Now in your organization, this would be 1 or 2 or 3 servers most likely. Here at PBSI, for a number of reasons, we have a bunch of different servers. Some of them are Linux servers, some of them are Windows servers. But among the things that can be seen is here is basically what you're seeing is on the top would be what the dashboard thinks is the most pressing problem among all PBSI servers. This one hasn't responded in 10 days, so it's turned off. That's the answer to that. We can see the last time a server was rebooted. We can see this about PC. So here's a server that hasn't been rebooted in 216 days, which basically that's a good thing. If you don't need to reboot a server, it means it's functioning well. So if I pick on a particular server, I'm picking on one here that has a red X. Now this is a particularly busy server at PBSI, and this red X up here is there because there's something in the detail section. So the top of my screen is the list of devices. The bottom of my screen are certain characteristics. So in this case, there's a red X next to performance monitoring memory checks. Tell me more about that. Now I'm not a technician, but this is what our technicians are seeing. We're seeing how much RAM is used. Okay, that looks okay. Non-pageable, commit charge. These are things, swap usage, which means things are needing to be swapped in and out of memory. Here seems to be a culprit. So when we have the current monitor that it's in a red zone, then we know there may be something to look at. Now, for demonstration purposes, we set some of these things abnormally low on some servers at PBSI, but I can look at memory usage, I can look at network utilization. So here's a case where transmitted information is all in the green zone, received information is fine here, but in total, this server is busier than we think it should be because we set the arbitrary point here. Our physical disk on this server we're having some speed issues when writing, and that's typical on a server. In a transaction-oriented environment, we much more frequently see hard drives being the source of speed issues than memory. So we can see on this server there are 4 processors, and right now the white arrow, they're all fine, but this red tells me that there have been times over the last 8 days when they've gone into the red zone. So here, that's the reason that this server is on the quote watch list, is because there are some things that have been issues recently. So real quickly, I'm going to go into one more piece of detail here, and then we'll leave this. But this is, I said I want to drill further into this. So on the left-hand side here, for this particular server, we see the last 24 hours. On the right-hand side, the last 8 days. So that's the way all these are. Left-hand side is 24 hours. And we can see how over the last 24 hours, processor utilization has been for CPU 0, CPU 1, CPU 2, and so forth. So, and then over the last 8 days, what we can see here is that there was a change on Friday where something started happening. So, I'm not sure, in fact, what this particular thing is, but this is exactly what a technician can learn and ask the question, so what happened on Friday that caused that to be different? So then RAM usage and so forth, number of pages per second. The details, I'm not a technician, you're not a technician, presumably. So the idea here is that the technician can see what's going on to further diagnose where else should we look next. Okay, so the key there is that critical problems can be seen, and also that non-critical problems can be seen. So this is the idea for servers, and we can see bandwidth performance on our firewall, whether the incoming or the outgoing are busy. We can see whether our website is up or down. Many things can be seen and checked. So I'm now going to go to the other main thing. So this is servers, and we have a dashboard always monitoring servers. Now I'm going to click on workstations, and so this is going to show all of the PCs and tablets and laptops and whatever at PBSI. And again, up on top, here would be the red X items. We're highlighting this one hasn't responded since May 8th. This one hasn't responded since May 8th, 2014. So generally speaking, all servers and PCs are set to report in on the dashboard every 15 minutes. That's true at your site, and it's true at PBSI. So when something hasn't reported in for a long time, what we know for sure is that it's turned off. That's, or I guess there could be another reason. But a technician will see that there's something going on with take control that is being deactivated at that workstation, and blah, blah, blah. Here are ones where patches are pending, meaning the patches have been downloaded, the PC has yet to be rebooted. Here's one that's red where the installation failed on my PC. What somebody, no, actually, as you might expect, for demonstration purposes, we have a couple of things that we just leave in place. So this is the idea. You click on a certain PC. This is my PC. We can see that there's an event check here, something happened, and this can be clicked on, goes to a website that gives the details of exactly what that means. But we can see critical events on each PC as well as on each server, that an event which might be a malware that got quarantined or something. Hopefully that wouldn't be true on my PC, but and here that my PC is about ready to be updated on some vulnerability which we have done at PBSI generally on Thursday evenings, I believe, and automatically rebooted, but that can be set differently. So the whole point here is not whether this is good, bad, or indifferent. The point is that somebody's monitoring this on your behalf, and of course, one of the most critical things that is continually tracked are the status of antivirus. So if there were an active virus on a certain PC, it would show up red, and it would show up immediately as to be attended to. So I can click on any PC and see more details. So here's one where the vulnerability check came to the top, so there's something about this vulnerability where maybe it's a more important issue. Disk space is checked, and so forth. So we can dive into details. We can fix things online. Online monitoring is a really useful thing, and hopefully you can see just a bit about the benefits. So I'm going to move on now, and to me, probably the most important content today is what do we need to teach employees, and a summary of what's on this screen is what you'll receive as an email handout after this webinar. So what do we need to make sure employees know? The two big guys are no unapproved downloads and no web links, but there are other details. So what do we mean by this? No software downloads on any kind on my PC unless approved by my manager. So you may be thinking, well, I'm a manager of employees, and if somebody came to me and said, can I download this? How would I know whether the answer is yes or no? So my feedback would be the answer is no. Unless it is a work-related thing, that means screensavers, that means whatever, that there's absolutely no download of any kind on my PC unless approved by my manager. And sometimes my manager should call PBSI, or in your case, whoever your IT service supplier is, and ask, is this okay? What kind of ramifications would there be? And we have ways to go and check different applications and websites, and I'll give you a bit more information about that as well. But basically, no downloads. This will avoid a lot of issues with malware and something getting under the surface. Screensavers are frequently the most common downloads. You see a screensaver on somebody's PC that's a golf course or fish or whatever, you want to go there and say, deinstall that, and hope it's not too late. Because if you were a malware provider, where would you hide your malware? In a Christian website, downloading a beautiful music and scripture? You might. So just because it's a purportedly good website or a screensaver vendor, stay away. Microsoft provides perfectly good screensavers that come with Windows. Use them. Attachments, special caution. Any attachment that is an exe or zip or BAT, these are files that the extension indicates there's an executable, that something is going to run when that is double-clicked, are particularly dangerous. Things can be hidden and bad even if they're not exe or zip or batch files, but when you see something that's in one of those camps, absolutely do not open it unless you're in the middle of an intended download where you've gone to a specific site and you're trying to download something, then it's fine. So I want to make a distinction between solicited and unsolicited. You go someplace and solicit a download because you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, follow their path, as long as you know the credibility of the source and the vendor you're downloading, then fine, but unsolicited, stay away. Okay, web links. This is really an important area. Do not click on links in emails unless you know and trust the source. So there is a website here on the screen, scanurl.net, that we frequently use to test an email, but I want to say we don't pass this out, generally speaking, to clients. So you can see the name of this site that you can go check, but you put this in the hands of an employee and they think, I can check that out, then I don't need to ask anybody. Well, I want to show you the ramification of that. When we're done with this screen, I want to show you what happens when an uneducated person goes to check something at ScanURL and gets lied to. And you'll really learn, I believe, from the example I'm going to give you. But continuing on web links, special caution, emails from known persons. I've received an email from my daughter. I've received one from my daughter-in-law, and they both turn out to be bad. And the characteristics are very common, though. Compare their name to their email address. So, yep, that's my daughter's name, but the email address isn't her email address. Ooh, immediate caution. Usually these are very brief. One might say, check this out, or thought you'd be interested. Oh, really? My daughter thinks I'd be interested in this? Well, what's that link? Boom, you've gone to the wrong place. This commonly happens with Yahoo and other email that have been hacked on the person's account. So solicited versus unsolicited, I mentioned this, but if an email is unsolicited, like one coming from PBSI, hopefully if you have a trust relationship with PBSI, you might not think of that as unsolicited, but an unsolicited that comes from Target or whatever retailer or whatever that you're just on a list, be careful. It's not that unsolicited email can't be okay, but have your antenna up. And don't click on the links. This is really important on an unsolicited email. Instead, go directly to the vendor's website in your browser and key in the information, and then you'll know if it's legitimate. And I'll show you an example of that. So from a work PC, only work-related sites. This is a security issue, not just a productivity issue. So you can tell employees who now you think you're taking away their Facebook or whatever that they're only using at lunchtime. The truth is Facebook and the like are among the more oft-hacked sites where there are difficult to figure out options that can be linked. So stay away from your work PCs with those kind of sites. Okay, my electronic workspace. I'll be quick about this. Make sure my PC is set to auto-update antivirus. Now, for PBSI clients, all of your PCs are automatically set this way. The end user has no ability to change it because it's so important. And we do the same thing with Windows apps and browsers. But these settings can be overridden by the end user at the PC. So just know if you see a question, should I download the latest version? And of course, if you're sure that it's a Microsoft message, the answer is yes, and reboot yes. I talked about this. Once security patches are released, hackers begin probing for all versions, old versions, immediately. One way to protect my PC is to set a screensaver. This is for medical clients with HIPAA issues, a very easy way to make sure if I set my screensaver to 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then requiring a password on return, very, very useful. If my PC is running slowly, ask for a review. Have somebody who knows what they're doing. And again, you can ask this for free from PBSI if you're a client. We'll get online and look at the tasks that are running and can assess whether there's some suspicious activities. Okay, employee policies. These are straightforward, but some things that should be in our handbook. Never share my password, and it's a grounds for termination if I ask for anyone else's password. We just can't share our passwords, and there are all kinds of HIPAA and other operational reasons for this, but from a security point of view, it's critical. So wireless passwords. We find in most of our clients wireless passwords are shared freely, too freely. Prohibitions, at least with family members, patients, vendors, you really can't share those, but we find increasingly that now clients are not giving employees access to the internal wireless. Employees today, most have smartphones, they have cellular, they can get their weather update or whatever on their phone without being a part of the wireless. But being a part of the wireless both has some security implications and it also has some bandwidth implications. Somebody streaming iTunes on their iPhone through our wireless network is actually clogging up our internet connection where a remote location or a physician from home is trying to log in and use that same bandwidth. So simplifying and unsharing, it's really not that difficult a thing to come in. Of course, I'm not in your organization, but to come in tomorrow and say, you know what, we're changing our wireless password and employees can't use it anymore. So obviously this is a call, it's not a requirement, it's simply a comment that you can improve your security and your bandwidth in this manner. And of course, never store written passwords around your desk, under your keyboard. I mean, this is very basic, but still, we field engineers in the field going out to client sites find this kind of thing all the time where your cleaning crew could easily see where that password is. And sometimes they're taped to the monitor or to the keyboard, so just avoid that. External communications, email and attachments. Emails are not secure. They are not encrypted unless you've specifically done something to encrypt them. So PBSI offers a service to provide encryption capability, but unless you've done that, no matter whether you use Outlook, Google, Gmail, AOL, Yahoo, whatever, your emails are not encrypted, meaning no protected information, whether it's social security numbers or patient IDs or dates of birth or whatever, may not email secure information. Tax returns, don't do it. Unless it's encrypted. If you want to find out how you can have an encrypted email, it's really straightforward to do. We can help you do it. Just it's the general 98% of the emails out there are not encrypted, and you just have to have that understood. Web storage, if you're using Dropbox or OneDrive or SkyDrive or Google Docs or whatever to store information, it's some useful stuff, but those sites, none of them are encrypted by definition. Now, you can ask questions. In some case, you can pay more and acquire encrypted folders, and there's free software like CloudFrogger and others that you can actually encrypt yourself, your shared directory on the cloud. But just understand you can't share confidential information via these methods without some method of self-encrypting, or you put yourself at risk. So, and then social media, another prohibition. No PHI goes out over our iPhone or so forth, and then no PHI on thumb drive. So these are some basics, and we'll send a sample of this. So we have about 10 minutes left before we're finished, and I'm going to quickly go through employee handbook issues that should be covered. We can give samples of this, but for productivity issues, no social media, these are things that should be addressed. Whatever your decisions are should be addressed in your employee handbook. Internet usage, recommended here is no internet streaming of music, sports, weather, no streaming, because it clogs up the bandwidth we're paying for as an organization. And the same recommendation is for wireless. We need to clarify document destruction and retention policies, which is how do we destroy information, when do we destroy information, issues surrounding that, make sure that employees understand these things. Okay, so manage my physical desktop, we've talked about this. Remote access, recommendation here, require pre-approval of remote devices. And again, you might say, Dr. Smith says he'd like to connect his iPhone and he owns the practice, so who does he have to get approval from? Well, it's recommended. If you don't know how to assess whether or not that's going to be a secure thing, call your IT vendor, call PBSI. We can help you and identify what might be the issues. Like if somebody's logging in from home on a home PC that's unsecure and not protected and has malware running, password grabbers can actually follow that person to your work, grab the passwords, and bypass all of your security, bypass your firewall security, bypass your password security, and that person now has complete access to whatever that physician or other employee had access to just because their home PC was not secure. So this is important and simple to do. Then policies for handling of protected information, guidelines for protection, principles of minimum necessary and need to know. We can go into details, but these things, I think for many of you, are common knowledge. And then, a simple recommendation that we all should be reporting our exposure incidents. Nobody's perfect. If I were an auditor and saw we haven't had any violations, nobody's left a chart on their desk or left a social security number turned up on their desk in the last 3 years, I would think, well, that's possible, but I'd really much rather have seen a log where this organization said that happened twice last year, and we sent an email to all employees in each case, and we had a training session, and blah, blah, blah. So policies and procedures. Okay, so now I'm going to do a short demonstration here of an example of what happened today. So today, this is actually a modified version of the email I received, but I received an email from an employee who will remain unnamed that said, Ray, would you please fix our Amex? There's a security question. I need to buy something. And here's the email, exactly the email that was sent to him. Now, does this look like an American Express email to you? It does to me. So what I want to do is I want to show you this link, American Express. So I thought, American Express wouldn't do this. I'm questioning this. So what I did is I copied this. You see what I'm doing very specifically. I'm copying that, and I went to this scanurl.net, and I pasted it, and I told it to check that URL. Now watch what it does. It's going to come back and tell me, American Express, this is just fine. And here's the danger. In the hands of an uneducated person, I get this information back. It's probably safe. Not aware of any instances of phishing, blah, blah, blah. This one's fine. That's what it just told me. But it was because I didn't know how to make that check. That link is not fine in any way, and I'm going to show that to you now in a different way. So I'm going to go back to that email, and this time instead of just copying it, I'm going to put my cursor over here. I'm going to right-click on that, and I'm going to say copy hyperlink. So now instead of the words, I'm actually getting the hyperlink under the surface. I'm going to go back to that website and paste that hyperlink and check the URL. And when scan URL comes back to me, you'll see what it tells me. See, even the word security in that case was misspelled. It says, do not visit this, poor reputation. So I don't know what that website does, but I'm certainly not going to go there. And this is the kind of thing that you could forward an email to PBSI like this and say, hey, check this. Is this okay? So I'm not saying don't check it yourself. What I'm saying is that exercise great caution in understanding whether or not you have cleared a website to be okay. So the issues there are that it's very hard for an employee, even an experienced, smart employee who knows about security issues, to always make the right decisions. So we have to be vigilant. And there's no substitute. Our antivirus wouldn't prevent that from doing damage. It might mitigate it, it might quarantine it, but who knows what's happened by that time. Okay, so we're almost finished. Hopefully, I think all of you, before you even logged in today, understood that IT security is important. Hopefully, some of you feel better knowing that you're protected in many of these ways. And in follow-up, anybody who wants information or free quotes or whatever, we're happy to help. But those of you who are PBSI clients know that there's nothing for you to purchase to be covered by the things you saw today. You're already covered. So we know in the future security will be increasingly important. I didn't know is just no benefit, and we need to get ahead of this. So solutions, to me, the most important thing other than having your basic firewall and your antivirus in place is to know the answer to the question, how would I know if my security were compromised? Online monitoring is a simple answer. Have somebody watching it on your behalf. And if you're interested in secure email, how to encrypt email, we can help with that. Or any other security service, feel free to ask us. But we are finished with content. Each of you will receive a attachment by email that will be a PDF, and yes, you can open it. We promise to send a secure PDF. But you're welcome to go to a URL and check us out. Better safe than sorry. So if you have questions, feel free to follow up with Karen or Linda or myself. I think most of you were contacted by one of these folks. I'm happy to talk, answer questions anytime. I want to thank you for your attendance, and for those of you who are PBSI clients for short time or a long time, I want to thank you for your support. So I'm going to stop now. We're finished with content. Anyone who would like to log off is welcome to log off. I will tell you that some of you asked questions in advance that we haven't specifically answered. We're going to send an email to all attendees with answers to the questions, so you'll all have those answers. So I'm going to stop now, and thank you for your attendance.